Today's conversation is with Jared Stein. He's not a father yet, but he's a man who understands discipline, pressure, rebuilding, and what it means to prepare for the future. We talk fitness, retirement, estate planning, and the kind of consistency men need to lead well.
Don't move. Keep it locked.
You already know.
You're listening to the Fit Fatherhood Podcast. And we're having conversations with dope dads covering the 4 pillars of fatherhood. We call it the Fit Fatherhood Formula. Faith, family, finance, and fitness. That's right. These dads are setting the pace in business and fatherhood. This show isn't only about the outside success. We're getting down to who you are. Gentlemen, it's time to get fit. And now, let's get into the show.
All right. Welcome back to the Fit Fatherhood Podcast, a podcast for fathers by fathers. We're talking about the 4 pillars of fatherhood, which are faith, family, finance, and fitness. And my guest today isn't actually a father. And we've done this before because I feel like that, being a father obviously, resonates with the majority of the audience, but we're also men and we're men first, right? And a lot of us are husbands. We're husbands first, and we're bosses. We're employees. We experience the world the same way. We have the same kind of weight on our shoulders. And so talking to another guy, besides just bouncing ideas around our own brain, can be extremely helpful to hear things from a different lens. Maybe something sparks, a fire within us to go out and approach the world in a different way. So my guest today is Jared Stein. Jared, how you doing, brother?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. We talked a little bit pre-pod. You got your workout in already, which is something I advise the guys as much as possible. If you can get up and get it in early, and not everybody's schedule fits that, but if you can put yourself first, kind of like taking care of yourself first thing in the morning, I think is the best time to do it. And I actually just finished mine up, so I'm probably going to be sweating through this one. This hoodie is unforgiving right now. It's cold everywhere but here right now. So you see me take off my hat and wipe my eyebrows, it's because the sweat is pouring into my eyes.
I get it.
But I'm feeling good and ready to rock and roll with you, brother. So tell the guys a little bit about who Jared Stein is.
I am the husband to a beautiful wife. My wife's name's Kate. We reside out in Phoenix, Arizona. Been out here since 2021. Left New York City during kind of all that COVID madness when my businesses were shut down and ruined. I was a former gym owner. We had 5 CrossFit gyms and 1 big box gym in New York City. Best job I ever had until I found the one I have now. Currently, I'm the COO of Strategy Financial Group, and we provide retirement services. Really, we're a family office for people who don't have, 20, 30, $40 million in net wealth. So we've kind of democratized the family office space for people who need help.
Awesome. So I kind of went through a similar situation. I wasn't the owner of the gym, but I was a general manager here in California. And we had 5 gyms at the time. And when COVID came, California shut down everything, especially in Southern California. So, we went from me bouncing around from gym to gym on any given day to, all right, we're going to run these Zoom classes.
Yep.
They were not well attended. It was a very shaky, I don't know what's going to happen. We survived. We lost a couple of gyms in the wake of that. But man, there was turbulent times for gym owners for sure.
But it was not easy financially, emotionally, physically. It was just a really tough time to be in that space and watch people kind of decline in their health, both mentally and physically, because of the absence of the gyms.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, though, and you kind of said it yourself, is for me, as devastating as that time was, it kind of opened me up to where I am now, right? Like I took that opportunity to refocus. I had been so busy, like managing other people and running gyms and all the things that go with it, as I'm sure you understand. And I just wasn't as intentional as I was about my time. I just wasn't spending enough time with my family. And when the gym shut down, I was home all of a sudden, right? And I'm home all the time. And I realized how much I was missing out on, and which kind of pushed me into this. And this all really actually started because of that time frame, right? It's like, man, I'm missing time with the people who are most important with me. And I'm fulfilled for sure because I'm helping people get healthy and change their lives. And I'm helping athletes become better athletes and championships and all these things. And then I go home and they got inside jokes I don't know about.
Yep.
It's like, what the heck is going on? Like, I'm doing this for you guys, and you guys are like, why are you here? And so, as devastating as that time was, I like to look at that kind of silver lining of it that positioned me to be where I'm at right now. And it sounded like kind of similarly, you're in a position now where you are grateful for what you're doing despite how you ended up there.
1000%. Dante's Inferno is one of my favorite books. And the lesson we learned from that is the only way out is through.
Mhm.
And you have to go through a whole lot of pain and suffering to, see the light of day again. And, in the moment, it sucks. But the truth is, you're on the mat, and either you're going to throw in the towel or you're going to answer the bell. And, what choice do you have, right? You have a family, right? You have responsibilities. You're not just going to give up and go away. That's not, in our ethos. And I had to answer the call. I just didn't know if I was going to get sucker punched again, or if I was going to, get my hands up and start throwing some jabs. And when I stopped feeling sorry for myself, I started making moves, and I allowed myself time to wallow a bit, and it was ugly and gross. And I wasn't proud of the person I was during that moment. But once I got it together and, you know, realized, hey, you got to keep going. Just got to reinvent myself. And it wasn't the first time I've had to do it. And I'm hoping I don't have to do it again. But if life comes at you like that, you fight back.
Yeah, yeah. Leaning into the fitness aspect of it just a little bit to kind of bring that point home a little more is like if you've been to the gym, right? Guys that are listening, obviously you have, I have, but like guys who've been to the gym know that there's some struggle and there's some pain in
Hmm.
that, right? But through that struggle comes strength, right? Like that last set that you gutted out, that you like you said, you're on the mat, you can either stay down or you can get up. Going to the gym on a daily basis, doing something hard, struggling and overcoming, ultimately providing more strength is like you kind of prepping that muscle for when life hits you with it, right? When it's not a barbell, when it's not a dumbbell, when it's actual life things, you've built up a muscle of struggling produces strength. So I'm going to go through it, right? I'm not going to quit. I'm going to continue pushing. And you find it's very funny. You find on the other side more energy, right? Like more
Yeah.
ability, and when you get back up, you find that you have a little bit more umph to you, right?
1000%. And, whether I'm a CrossFit guy, and whether you're a strength and conditioning guy, power lift, or whatever the sport or, variety of fitness you're doing is, you're building capacity in some domain or another. And that capacity is transferable. And we talked about getting up and getting after it early. I wake up at 4:30 every day to make sure that the hardest part of my day is done before I, get home, before I be a husband, before I be a boss at work, before I can help and serve, the families in our communities. I want to make sure that my capacity is at an all-time high, and, those skills are sharpened, and that, like, the hardest part of my day is done. And whatever is going to get thrown at me is not going to put me in zone 4. It's not going to make me feel like I'm about to, throw up in the bucket. It's not going to make me, on the floor, wailing. So, I think we learn a lot of lessons from the gym or from sport in general. And, tenacity is part of it, but, building that capacity to handle anything is made in that gym. It's not made in the office.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting that we, when things like that happen, when we get kind of caught off guard by something or life, like I said, life happens, we don't immediately connect to the experiences that we've had that can like propel us forward, right? Like you said, I did something similar, right? When it first happened, I felt sorry for myself. It was like, oh, man, because the reality is we didn't know when it was going to be different, right? And I was just like, man, I built this career, and now I've got to try to coach people online, which I had done a little bit, but it's not the
It's not
same.
the same.
It's
Yeah.
not the same. Like getting in the trenches and giving a solid spot, giving some real encouragement, being in the fray is very different than, let me check your workout log and send you a voice memo about the lift that you missed or didn't. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there
Right. It's
there
true.
there's some cool parts to it where, you'll get a client video back and they're like, oh man, look at what I did and all that. But it ain't the same, man. It's not the same. And so I had to learn, and I've had life experiences that should have prepared me for this, right? But I had to learn that, like, hey man, this is a pivot point, right? This is like, okay, it kind of knocked you off your block, but now let's get back into it. And again, building that muscle of doing that every day. You know what I mean?
1000%. Discipline isn't something that you learn over, a day or a week. It's a skill that you develop over the course of your life. You can't teach somebody discipline. They have to do it. When, The gym teaches you that too, right? It's like, okay, like this is like you walk in, like it's gonna hurt, it's gonna suck, and I'm gonna do it anyways because I'm gonna be
Yeah.
better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know the show is starting to get rolling, but I had to drop in and let you know that this episode is brought to you by Baseline Performance. Baseline Performance was built for fathers who train with purpose, not for hype, not for complicated stacks, and not for guys who are chasing every trend. Just clean, effective supplements that help you show up ready, ready for your workout, ready for work, and ready for your family. Because when your baseline is off, everything feels harder. But when your baseline is right, everything starts to move better. That's what Baseline Performance is about. Simple support for dads who want to train hard, recover well, and stay consistent. If you're ready to get back to your baseline, check out Baseline Performance. The link is down in the show notes. All right, now back to the episode. So let's kind of go back to what you're doing now as a career. It is kind of like estate planning. Is it what, like, can you kind of lay that out what it is? Like if I were to come in and I'm coming to see Jared Stein, what would I be coming to see Mr. Stein for?
Yeah. So you wouldn't be coming to see me, right? I'm not a
Okay.
financial advisor.
Yeah.
I'm not a CFP. Our
Okay.
firm is though. And so what our
Gotcha.
firm does is we attack a retirement in, 5 pillars. So estate planning is one of them. And it's usually the first thing we get people to come in and see us for, because especially when you're in California, probate laws in different states are really ugly. And the worst moment of someone's life, right, your spouse or your family, is when you pass and now all your stuff has to go through probate, which is a really ugly process that takes between 8 and 12 months. So when we build an estate plan, we make sure that that worst day is kind of consolidated to that day and that you feel safe and comfortable and protected so that your loved ones can move on and live their life with the assets you've provided them. The second part is healthcare. So a lot of our clients are retirees. Medicare is a big thing and it's really sticky to navigate. So you need some expertise and not just signing up for Medicare, but like when do you turn it on and what supplemental packages do you need? So we help with that. And then we also help with retirement income, retirement investments, and then your tax strategies around that. And so normally you have one guy who does each of those things. Like if you were to go to like your Charles Schwab down the street, they'll just handle your investment portfolio. And you have to
Mhm.
go to your CPA to get your taxes. And then you have to go to some lawyer to do your estate plan. We do it all in house. And that's what a family office typically does. But usually to get access to a family office, you need 10 to $50 million. So we
Wow.
do that for people who have, anywhere from like 2,000 in a checking account to, you know, 10 to $15 million.
Okay. Okay. Well, that seems like something that everybody needs, right? Like I know a lot of
Everybody needs
guys.
it. Yep.
Yeah, I know that a lot of guys that I talk to, we talk about legacy or we talk about, you know, um, generational wealth or like, providing for our families beyond the life that we're living currently. When we go, we want our children to be taken care of. We want our grandchildren to be taken care of. But a lot of that, because as you just mentioned, there's so many different pieces of it. It seems heavy. It feels heavy, and
It
guys
is.
kind of shy away from it, or we just do one thing, right? Like, oh, I got a life insurance policy through work. That's it, right? And we just hope that that's the best, or we think, hey, that's better than what my parents did. Like typically our parents left us debt, and so we just want to be
Hmm.
a step ahead. But
A
it
step ahead. Yeah.
sounds like there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle there.
There are, and they don't have to be complicated or scary. And when you go to, a firm like ours, we break it apart in really digestible chunks. Everyone at our firm is evangelical about what we do because we all have a personal story of why we're in this line of work. And, mine is I looked at my, grandmother and my grandfather since passed, but they were small business owners in New Jersey. They had a great little diner that was like a staple of the community. They worked really hard for 50, 60 years. They retired, sold their house, and in one day, boom, market popped in 2000. They were left with nothing. And, they were small business owners. They weren't very well educated, formally. So they didn't, have the right advice around their investments. They didn't really understand how Social Security worked. They didn't understand Medicare as well as, an expert would. And I'm blessed enough that my parents are able to help with my grandmother, but I don't want that for anyone's grandmother. And,
Hmm.
I want to help as many families as possible. And our goal at the firm is not a dollar denominated goal. So, some firms want like $1 billion in asset management. We don't look at it like that. We look at it, how many households, how many families can we serve in a year?
Okay. What is like? I mean, when people typically come to your firm, what are like the, I don't know, what's like the first step, or what are the things that they're typically struggling with? Or are most people kind of finding you and they're like at ground zero and you have to kind of build things up for them?
Yeah, so we get a mix. We get a mix of people who either don't have an estate plan or don't know what one is. And so that's usually the logical first step is that we get your assets, put them into an estate plan, and make sure that whatever you have currently is like safe, protected, just in case like some tragedy should strike. The second thing is we look at how you want to live your lifestyle in retirement. So if you want to, live at $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month, or $5,000 a month, we build strategies around getting that income together and putting them in viable products so that you're, tax protected, that you're financially safe, that the money's not at complete risk. So there's two types of, buckets of money we operate in. One is risk money, which is putting it in the stock market, right? The stock market can crash, that goes to zero. So it is a risk. Now it's not a crazy risk. It's not like we're investing in a Venezuelan stock market. That money is at risk. And then the other part, we do 50-50, so 50 in risk and then 50 in safe money. And we use products like fixed index annuities that have a base of zero. So your principal is always protected. You get a 10 to 12 to something, point lock on the S&P 500, and that locks into the principal. And then in a couple of years, you get to pull income from that. And it's like building your own pension. And a lot of our clients find that really interesting because not a lot of people have pensions or like a guaranteed source of recurring income. And so that's really attractive to a lot of people who like spent their whole life working and are accustomed to a certain, income a month style. So we do a lot of that. And then there are people who come to us with just their portfolio. They say, hey, we have $200,000 in an IRA. We don't know what to do with it. We want to make sure that this is, in a safe strategy so that, when we want to pull from it in 10 years, that there's money in there that we can give our grandchildren or leave a legacy to a charity, or there's a whole bunch of different use cases. But usually those are the three types of people who walk in. And then there's always the fourth, who's like an existing client who's like, hey, you guys have done really well for me. Let's make sure that this is tax advantaged. So, there's not a huge bill at the end of the year. And how can we get the most out of
Okay. Okay. Can we go back to estate? When you say estate planning, is that like a trust, a will, or is it something else? Like what is
Yeah,
that?
it's great. It's a great question. So there's a will is a pretty much a piece of paper that just says, I decree my assets to you at the point of my death. It's legally binding, but it has to go through the probate process. An estate plan usually consists of two things. It's either a revocable trust or irrevocable trust. And a trust is just a legal entity that holds those assets so that it's protected from probate. And it almost acts like a company. So let's call it the Jared Stein LLC is the trust. And then at the time of my passing, who I choose as the trustee gets to dish out those assets, and it's shielded from probate. And each state has a different probate level. And so, if you own your house in Arizona, where we live, Arizona probates at $300,000. So if you have equity in your house is like subject to probate, and so is the rest of your stuff. So for us, it's easy to get people who've owned their home for 20 years. They probably bought it for $100,000 20 years ago. Now it's worth $1 million. They're going to be subject to probate if they don't put the house into the trust. So it's really a very easy thing to do because it avoids a lot of we call them the death tax, right? The estate tax. And it makes things much smoother so that, you don't have to send in death certificates to the county clerk office, and you don't have to wait 9 months for some probate judge to say, okay, you can have your things now.
Gotcha. What's the difference between revocable and irrevocable?
Those are just like rules around when you can access it and who has access to it. So a revocable trust means that you're just alive, like you and your wife would put a trust together and you're both alive and you can add to it or take things out of it as your trustees.
Got you. Okay. Okay. All right. So it sounds like highly suggest getting a trust.
For everybody at every asset level across the country.
Okay. All right. So fellas, number one, get a trust. If you don't already have one, that's number one. All right. So
Yeah.
we got a trust now. We got we put our house in it.
Mhm.
What are some other things other than the house that we can put in it?
You would put in your 401ks, your IRAs, any investment accounts you have, your bank accounts. pretty much every tangible asset you have. Your cars, if you like, let's say you love your cars and you have a 67, Chevy, right? And that's your baby. You put that, you would deed the car to the trust so that your sons could have it after you passed and it doesn't have to go through probate. So if you're leasing your car, you can't do something like that. But if you own your car, you should.
Okay. Got you. Got you. All right. So anything that I wanna pass down or protect goes into the trust.
Yeah. So
Okay.
house, investment accounts, bank accounts, cars, boats, gym equipment, you can put anything in it.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Perfect. So all the things that I think are cool that I want to keep and pass down to my kids,
Yeah.
or I just
Anything you
want to.
want your kids to have.
Perfect. 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 Okay. All right. So get the trust. Now I got the trust, and then we start talking about, and this is something I'm actually, my wife and I'll be 43 in 2 weeks. She'll be 43 in like a month, and then we're at an age now where start talking about retirement. Right. My oldest daughter is 13, so she'll be in high school next year. My youngest is 11. We got to start planning for college, and then we're like, okay, college and retirement. We're starting to work on both at the same. I mean, we've been working on retirement for a while, right? Like putting money away and all that kind of stuff. But like now that college thing is going to start competing with the retirement thing. So do you guys also work with like that kind of planning? I mean, obviously you work with retirement planning, but is there something that maybe everyone should be looking at when we're talking about retirement planning versus, also trying to plan for these other things? Should we be clearing up debt first? Like what do you suggest in your professional opinion, I guess?
Yeah. So again, just for everyone listening, I am not a financial advisor or a planner.
And this
You
is
got to
not a
call the
financial
guys.
advice. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Protect yourself.
this is just one man's opinion, but definitely come to the firm and talk to the guys because everyone's situation is different. But there's a couple of different ways to slice that apple. One is good debt versus bad debt. Bad debt would be like credit cards and stuff like that that pile up that have really high interest rates. Good debt would be your house, right? Hopefully, you have a fixed rate mortgage and you're building equity in the house with every payment. The second part would be planning for retirement and college. There's two different vehicles. One, you have IRAs and Roth IRAs. If you can, you want to put it in a Roth IRA so that it's what we call qualified money. So when you go to pull it, it's tax free. It's already been taxed. You can have it for free income. The second, and you want to max those out every year. And I've been doing that since I'm 18. Someone pulled me aside when I was a freshman in college and gave me a chance at an internship and was like, this is the one thing you got to do. And I've been maxing it out since I'm 18. So the 20, almost 20 years, right? Or no, sorry, longer, 22 years. Then there's college stuff, which is, a 529 account, right? There's tax advantages to putting money into a 529 and being able to pull that for your child's education. And if you're a father of young kids, the sooner you open that up and start loading it in. We've known that college has gotten exponentially more expensive in the last 20 to 30 years. Keep loading that in there. Try to get as much as you can in, because if you don't use it, you get to pull that out and you can have that cash. It's not gone forever. And so what I would say to someone, who's 43, who's got, kids on the verge of college and still looking at retirement, you need a full family plan. So you and your wife would come in, you would say, okay, we make this amount of year. This is our monthly expenditure. We can expect this much in taxes. And we know in 5 years, we have these payments of 20 to 30,000 to 40,000 for college. And so then you start building from the ground up.
Okay. Okay. And then I know you just mentioned when so you started early. If you have a kid, you want to start early, but I know some guys that maybe weren't, as lucky or as blessed as you to find out early. Is there a such thing as too late? And I kind of know the answer to this, but I just want to make sure to hear it from somebody other
No,
than me.
no, start now. If you haven't started, start now. I've been what I'd call a very cautious spender or saver, depending on which side of the coin. I've always lived by the rule of my rent. It was never more than 25% of my monthly income. And so I've held that to my mortgage as well. And I've always socked away 25% of my paycheck. So in savings. So I can live, I should be able to live and do the things I want to do on 50% of my monthly income.
So we need to get to that number or something similar, right? Like if
Or
we
something
can,
similar. Yeah.
we figure out how we work that down or what it is we need to do. And it may not
Yeah.
happen
And
right away, right?
right. And everyone's situation is different, right? You have kids and they cost a lot of money. So maybe saving 25% is not a real thing.
Right.
And but if you save 5% or 10%, it's better than zero. And every dollar you save now has an opportunity to grow 8 to 10% per year while it's in the market. So better late than never.
Okay. Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk fitness. We got some finance stuff
Yeah.
out of the way. Let's get into fitness. So we talked a little bit about, those kind of early hours of getting the workouts in, and you're a CrossFit guy. Have you dabbled in other because you mentioned, like, strength and conditioning or things like that. Other than CrossFit, have you done some other stuff? Or have
Yeah.
you been
I did MMA for a long time when I was in my youth, right? So from like 17 to 25, I really loved doing mixed martial arts and all the disciplines that came with that. That was really great. I've tried to do some powerlifting and some endurance stuff. I've tried my hand at cycling and swimming, but the ultimate peak, like the pinnacle of like the CrossFit methodology is sport. I like to go do the sports, right? So if it's all right, we're going to go golfing. Like, I want to be fit enough to go golf. If we're going to hike, I want to be fit enough to, put a ruck on and get up the mountain. Up until a couple of years ago, I was playing softball 4 nights a week. And, that was like a bunch of fun too, right? I just want to be fit enough to do all the things in life that I want to do.
Yeah, awesome. My brother and sister-in-law are really into CrossFit. She's actually gonna hopefully be competing in the games this year. We'll see how that goes.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's coming off a back injury last year, and then a baby the year before. So she's working her way back into it, but she's a beast. Like, it's embarrassing.
I get it.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, come on, Tracy, take it easy. No, I don't want to go work out with you guys. Like, get out of here. Like, you're just gonna
Yeah.
show out. I don't want that. Like,
Yeah. They're
yeah,
just
get out
fit
of here.
people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's an animal. He is too. He is too. But she makes us both look bad. You know what? My wife and I, we CrossFitted a million years ago. I want to say it was like 2007 to like maybe 2009.
Yeah. Early days. Yeah.
Out here in Pasadena. And what I loved about it was the family feel,
Hmm.
like you go into the box and it's like everybody knew everybody. Everybody had a similar like we were all going to struggle through this workout. Like, there's some people who were phenomenal athletes and they were getting crushed and I'm getting crushed and we're all in it together. And I think that was one of the things that like kind of made it explode, right? Is because there's that shared experience of we're all in this together. Whatever's on the whiteboard today is out to get us all, and we gotta fight to survive together. And I think that kind of ideology or that thought process is important for men to understand, is that we're all going to be faced with kind of the similar things in society. Like, we're all at different stages of life and different scenarios. And so it may affect us in different ways. Like, I'm a father, you're not, but we're in the same world, right? We're dealing with the same situations. All the same things are affecting us because at the core of it, we're just men. Right. But can you kind of talk a little bit about like how you're getting or maybe keeping fitness kind of a priority in your day, and how you kind of work that out?
Yeah. So I've been in the gym since my mom used to teach like Pilates and Zumba and TRX and step and you name the class she taught at the local gym. So I got introduced to the gym kind of as like a babysitter when I was 12, 13 years old. And, a guy took me under his wing. He was like, "Hey man, you're a little young to be here. Let's leave the weights on the side. You're gonna hang on the pull-up bar until you can do, 3 strict pull-ups." And that's all I did every day. And I would just hang on that bar. And he taught me how to do pull-ups and move my body in a safe way. And it was like a really cool feeling of community and everyone was behind me. And there were like these big dudes that were like cheering me, a 13-year-old on for getting a pull-up. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, this is so cool. And that cascaded, like, it was just a really good energy and it made me feel really good. So I always wanted to be in there. And as I went through high school sports and college sports, I really loved the training more than I loved the game. And it was kind of wild, right? I liked practicing more than I liked being on the field doing the thing. And that's when I realized, like, I really just like being in the gym. This is a lot of fun for me. I like the people around me. I like the people that I'm doing this with. And I like the results that I'm getting, like the way my body feels. And I know that after working out for better part of 30 years is that if I don't take care of myself first, first thing in the morning before my other responsibilities, I'm not going to feel good. I'm not going to have the right energy with the people around me. I'm not going to show up great, for my wife. I'm going to be cranky, and I need that. As men, we need that like release, that energy, like to get out, and you have to put that energy somewhere. And for me, that's the gym, and always found solace in that. When I got shown CrossFit.com in 2008. I didn't know what it was. It looked like a really short workout. And I was like,
Yeah.
what is this? And so like we would do it and it was awesome. And we had so much fun. And then I was like, okay, what's next? And then we'd, do a lifting piece and more, traditional strength and conditioning.
Mhm.
And what I always craved was that feeling of camaraderie at the end of it, being like, wow, that was really hard. And wow, we really did that together. And cool, like now we're better for it. And we're going to do it again tomorrow. And when I finally found myself in a CrossFit gym in 2009, was like the first time I walked into like an actual affiliate. Everyone knew everyone's name. Everyone was doing that same workout that you were
There you
talking
go.
about. At the end of it, everyone's doing like I'm laying on the floor, wiped out, and people are like, "High fives, good job! Like that was awesome. Let's talk about it." And we'll walk back. I know you live on the east side, so let's walk back that way, and we'll grab a coffee. I was like, I've been here for 10 minutes. Like this is
Yeah.
cool. Like you guys just like me because we're doing the same thing. Like, and you get to foster those relationships. And so as that evolved, you get addicted to that feeling of, hey, I know this is going to suck, but I know I'm going to feel better afterwards. So like you're chasing that, I'm going to feel better afterwards. And even when you're having a bad day, like today, I wasn't the best I've ever been in the gym today. I had a 30-minute piece. Could I have performed better? 100%. And I just, I listened to my body. I'm getting up there in age. I'm almost 40. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to dial it back a little bit, but I'm still going to feel good afterwards. I'm injury free. And I got to see all my buddies. Like all my friends are at the gym today. And I was so happy to see them. And it didn't matter that like I just suffered for 30 minutes. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna hang out. I'm gonna feel good. I got, driving home. I'm just like, wow, that was awesome. And and you get addicted to that feeling. And it's something that I've always prioritized because I like that feeling. And I'm going to continue to prioritize that because one, I know it's good for me. And, so that's helpful. But two, selfishly, I like the way it makes me feel. And, three is the vanity. It's like, yeah, I like having muscles and I like being able to carry the groceries out of the car for my wife or, move the big package that she got from Amazon inside the house. Or, today she had me rearrange some pool furniture. I'm like, yeah, I can do these things because I'm fit enough to do that. I'm fit enough to take life on.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's a really, really important part to kind of lean into is that the stuff you're doing in the gym, it isn't for the gym, right? It's for
No.
life, right? Like
Yeah.
it just makes life easier, right? As sitting down and standing up becomes a lot easier when you're in the gym, right? Moving the furniture, that list of things your wife has you doing is not going to put you underneath the good for the next
Right.
week, right? Like you just feel better about everything that you're doing. And I think that's important because a lot of people will shy away from going to the gym because, oh, I'm gonna be so sore. Or just that mindset of I'm not ready yet, right? Like, oh, I need to start working out, but I'm not ready to work out, you know? Or they do, but they go, 2 hour. I'm going double days. Get up early, I'm gonna go do this, and then in the evening I'm gonna do that. And before you know it, they burn out. And I think it's really important what you said is like today isn't going to be, or it may not be the best possible day that I've had at the gym. Like there's for sure times where I went in and I was way better, but I listened to my body. I went in, I got some movement, and at the end of the day, I feel better for it. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And I think people put too much pressure on themselves to perform in general, right? So if you're, new to the gym or new to fitness, the expectation isn't that you go grab the 100-pound dumbbells. Everyone starts on the left side of the rack. You're grabbing the fives. And everyone in the gym knows that. And no one cares. The only one who cares is you, right? And so, like, is it cool that I can do ring muscle ups and, back squat 500 pounds? Yeah, I think it's cool. But, like, does anyone really care? Not really.
No, no,
No.
yeah,
But, like, on the days where, like, I got to pick up something really heavy, I'm, like, really glad that I have the capacity to do that.
right, yeah, yeah. Because the other side of that is like the Amazon package comes and you're like,
I'm
okay,
stuck.
yeah, can you can you help me come move this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and and the resilience to injury, right? Because you mentioned I'm about to be 43, you're about to be 40, we're getting older. And that working out, some of the stuff that like I've got a buddy who his back goes out, like just yeah, man, I was putting on my shoe today and now I'm in the bed for the rest of the week. I'm like, yo, what happened to you? Like you know what I mean? Like we played ball or he played ball in high school. We didn't play together, but he played ball in high school. And I mean, you didn't have that many collisions in high school where you should be like, you can't move. You know
No,
what I mean?
as we get old, as we pass 30, right, muscle deteriorates and atrophies at like some crazy percentage point per year. And then, same thing with investments, right? It compounds. And so it just compounds in a negative way in this sense where, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I didn't realize that was true. In my 20s, I was just like, oh, I'm just going to be fit and, I can just maintain this and all that. And the reality was, no, I got to work even harder in my 30s to maintain it so that when I hit my 50s, I'm still fit. And when I'm 60s, it's not a problem. When I'm, God bless my, my grandfather lived till he was 92. He needed a wheelchair. I'm praying I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think some of that comes with, like you said, listening to your body and finding out, what is the method that you're going to use because it's not going to be the same, right? Like some guys listening to this are not CrossFit is probably not best for them, right? Like it definitely has all of the benefits,
Yeah.
but like
Right.
high intensity, varied functional, like that may not work for everyone, right? Because variety, if you haven't been doing anything forever and then all of a sudden you get a chipper thrown at
You
you, it
jump
might
in
it
and it's
might
going to
crush you.
hurt. Yeah.
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 So that might not be your way to get it done, but there is a way out there, right? And it may be
Oh, yeah.
you
There's a
just
thousand ways.
yeah,
And it doesn't have to cost nothing, right? You could go for a walk and get 10,000 steps and then, do a bunch of air squats and push-ups and you're going to be fitter than 90% of the people out there.
right, right.
And, if you were to ask me 10 years ago, I was an ideologue about it, right? I was evangelical about CrossFit. If you weren't doing CrossFit, you were nuts. And as I've gotten older and more mature, I'm just like, who actually cares? Because what is CrossFit, right? It's varied functional movements over, different time domains and capacities. And you can do that without being in a CrossFit gym, without a barbell, without a dumbbell. You can move your body just fine and get pretty jacked and stay pretty healthy. And you don't have to spend any money doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that again, important fellas. I hope you're hearing this, right? Because I know a lot of guys I talk to are like, I just don't have time, or I don't have the space, I don't have the equipment. You don't need much. You really
No,
don't, right? Like if you
I'll
just
give you
show
I'll
up.
give you a perfect example. My best friend, my oldest friend, I've known him since we were in preschool together. And he's a high powered exec at the NBA. I mean, youngest executive at the NBA ever. And he's got two kids. He's got a very demanding job. And, he sends me a text like, I don't have time to work out. I'm like, wake up 20 minutes earlier, do 200 air squats. There's your workout. And, he's been doing it. He, didn't, God bless him, right? 20 minutes a day. That's all I asked of him. I was like 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week. Is push-ups, air squats. You can do it in your bedroom before the kids wake up. Hop in the shower. Your wife won't even know what happened.
Yeah. And that it doesn't sound like much, but when you compare it to nothing, it's a whole lot. And like you
Yeah.
mentioned, just like finances is compounding, right? Like
Hmm.
every day. You may not notice it the first day, you may not notice it the first week, but like as the time goes on, like, oh man, 20 minutes ain't so bad, right? Or this set of 20 push-ups is, oh man, let me do 25. Now let me do 30. And before you know it, like your body is starting to make these adaptations and you're like, 20 minutes, let me get 30 minutes. Like
Right.
it starts to get infectious and you start
Right.
really
And,
wanting to
and
do it.
and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the other dials and switches, right? For me, the pyramid starts at nutrition, and then for me, it's sleep, and then it's my fitness. Because if my nutrition's not great, it doesn't matter what the other two do. And if nutrition's good and my sleep shit, I'm not going to be any good in the gym either. So I've made it a point that I got to eat clean most of the time. I'm not perfect. I'm not a saint, but I try hard. I make sure I get 8 hours no matter what, period. As I've gotten older, I realize it's way more important. And then I get my fitness in. And I've built my schedule around those things so that I can show up properly for my wife, for my boss, for the families we serve, and for my friends. Those are just, some of those dials and switches you can toggle really easy that don't cost any extra money.
Yeah, yeah. Like sleep is the number one PED out there. If you can figure
Hmm.
out how to get, structure your life in a way that you can get 8 to 10 hours of sleep, it is amazing what it does for literally everything else. And nutrition is the same way, right? Like if you eat like crap, you feel like crap. It's not you are what you eat in the sense that it was in the 90s. It's like you don't eat well, you don't feel well. That's you are what you eat, right? And so you got to fuel your bodies again, especially as we get older. You have to fuel yourself with the right stuff so that you can operate at an optimal level, right? And again, that's not going to be elite athlete level unless you're an
No, it
elite
doesn't have to be.
athlete, but it's
Yeah.
your level, you know?
Hmm. No, totally agree.
So I got a couple of questions I have for you, and you can answer these or maybe answer these both, right? Fitness and finance. What do you think is the most overrated advice online in either fitness or finance?
The most overrated fitness advice is that you got to kill yourself to look good. You don't. You don't. I mean, for me, CrossFit's been the amalgamation of skills over the last 20 years. And so for me, I have an expectation of myself that I have a baseline level of capacity. I have a baseline level of skills. So for me, my baseline may be a little higher. And I know that I don't need to, I'm not trying to go to the CrossFit games. I don't need to go do 4 hours of work. I know I need, 60 to 90 minutes to keep my baseline where it is. And I think, there's a lot of stuff out there that you need to be in the gym 2, 3, 4 hours a day, training, killing yourself and taking all these different, whether it's a peptide, whether it's a supplement, whether it's, some magic pill. There's no pill. There's no magic switch, right? It's really just hard work. And if you do it for an hour, you're going to be fine. You do it for 20 minutes and you're going from 0 to 20, you're going to be unrecognizable in 8 weeks. And then you add the 30 minutes and, 40 or whatever. And so I think that was one of the biggest like wake up calls was like, you don't need to do all this volume and all these things and take all these, peptides and supplements and start with the nutrition, sleep, and just, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of movement. See how far that takes you. And then if you want to talk about like next level stuff, like you can unlock that door then. But you're not going to take like a peptide and a protein powder and be jacked and fit, in a week. It's just not realistic. And then on the finance side, there's a lot, man. Crypto, I think, is the biggest, biggest nonsense ever. And that may be a hot take because of, where Bitcoin's been. But if you looked at the historical perspective of macroeconomics over the course of the last 500 years, this looks a lot like tulip mania in Amsterdam in the 1700s, where people were buying tulip bulbs and they were trading at some crazy price, back when the Dutch were around the seas. And then it all went away. It was like the emperor had no clothes. And the
Yeah.
reality is Bitcoin doesn't buy you anything. You always have to trade it into a currency. So if I went to go buy Bitcoin, I have to trade my US dollars. I have Bitcoin, whatever that is. And then if I want to go buy something with that Bitcoin, I have to turn it into dollars and go make the purchase.
Mm.
So
Okay.
I don't think there's actually any real value there. I think this was a really good attempt of democratizing currency as opposed to a fiat currency, which we have in the dollar or the euro or the yen.
Mhm.
But one day the carousel is going to stop.
Okay. All right. The crypto bro is gonna be at you on this one, man.
And look, there's a lot of guys. Look, there's a lot of guys. My cousin's one of them. Made a ton of money in crypto. And I'm like, awesome, dude. I'm glad you didn't lose your shirt. Like, I'm happy for him. And I'm
Hmm.
like, but don't tell me this is like a sound and safe asset. It's not. There's no physical thing it makes, right? Warren Buffett, who's probably the best investor ever, right? He had an
Right.
ethos. He's like, I don't invest in things I don't understand. And so there may be people who understand Bitcoin like really well. Let them go do that. Let them trade in that. But, Warren Buffett invested in like Coca-Cola because he understood what Coca-Cola was. He understood what a ball bearing was. So he invested in ball bearings. So, I think that would be the antithesis of investing in something I would say only invest in things you understand.
All right. That's good. That's good. Right. And I like the analogy to the tulip mania. And then also that you're right. Right now I can't do anything. I can acquire Bitcoin, but I can't do anything until Bitcoin becomes something else, right? Like it has to
Right. You have
I have
to,
to
you have
turn
to,
it into
you have to liquidate it.
right. And then the that's always going to be affected by the value of the fiat currency, right? And so that part of it does make it kind of tricky, right?
It makes
So
it really tricky.
oh, so okay, all right, cool, cool, cool. You kind of alluded to it already in fitness, right? We talked about like just taking that 20 minutes, but what is like one boring move, like something simple, easy, we would say it's boring thing that we can do. And if you want to stick with the 20 minutes in fitness, then we'll take that as and we'll leave that as it is. But then in finance or if, in family planning or protection, what is that boring thing that I can do to just like it's the biggest bang for my buck?
Yeah, the basics are always boring, right? Yeah, I believe in if you practice perfectly, you make improvements. And so whether we're talking about the gym where like you got to get your squats, your deadlifts, your pull-ups, your push-ups dialed in, those are the basics. They're boring. Well, not for me, but like I enjoy those movements, but a lot of people find them boring. If I said, hey, go do 30 pull-ups, they may get bored and it may not take long and they're still going to get bored, but there's no better bang for your buck, right? You're going to do 100 air squats. You're going to get bored. It's doing the same repetitive movement over and over again. You're going to get bored, but the basics, they're the most effective. And the same thing goes for finance. And when you're investing in things that are exciting and new and hot and, all like the NFTs, remember when NFTs were big, people were dumping them. No one knew what an NFT was. It was hot and exciting and people like lost their shirt buying an image of some thing and it didn't materialize to anything. I would say, some things apply. Things really, the S&P, if you were an investor in the S&P in 1988 when the market crashed, we'll pick a low point on Black Monday, and you started your investment account that day and you wrote it all the way through into now to today, right? You would have had a couple bad days, right? You would have had the pop in 2000. You would have had 2008, which was pretty ugly, 2008, 2009.
Hmm.
But then the market rebounded and started, climbing again. And so if you stay the course with the boring stuff, like the S&P is real, like diversified, boring. It's not exciting, but you get to track it every day. You can learn the companies that are in it. You get exposure to a whole bunch of different industries. The boring, the basics, that's where I go.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think that's like we were always told, keep it simple, stupid. Like just some of
That's
that
true.
stuff is very exciting, and then NFTs was one of them, right? The world was going into a virtual space, and we needed to buy digital real estate and build houses on it, and
Right.
all the
And
things, right?
what did it amount to? Right. And that's not to say that there are other ways to make a lot of money in finance, right? We could spend hours talking about option strategies, but that's really risky stuff. And the risk reward profile is wild on that kind of stuff. And if you don't know that, you know, particular stock and those option strategies like straddles and bear hugs and long calls and, way out of the money options, like you're going to get your shirt taken from you and fast because there's guys out there that are experts that spend all day doing this stuff. And we talked about 2008 for a second, that credit default swap mess, right? That took down Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns, right? Those are really smart dudes, like literal rocket scientists designed that
Hmm.
stuff and were trading that stuff. And then it got democratized and people were, bundling mortgages and they were selling out the door to retail investors who didn't know what they were looking at. Market went kaboom.
Yeah. 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 So keep it boring, fellas. Get your 100 air squats in. Save, put 25% in. Like do all the things, right? Max out your IRA, do all those things because uh you can be risky with some portion of it, right? Like just
Yeah.
if you want the fun and the excitement, like you can definitely go just your first day working out, you're going to decide that you're going to run a marathon. You can definitely go like you go
Yeah.
balls to the
Yeah.
wall if that's what you
Yeah.
want.
Have at it. Yeah.
That's a part of it too, right? Like there is some part of it where yes, we do want to just do the boring things and they're consistent, but there's kind of like that flow chart, right? Where it's got to be enough to challenge you so that you want to do it, but it can't be too challenging where it crushes you or kills you, right? Like it's got to be somewhere in that midpoint for you to stay consistent or to find that like inspiration and motivation to do it consistently. But if you just want to get the result, just keep it boring. Like,
Keep it boring. Master the basics.
yeah. Set it and forget it, like they used to say at the Ron Popeil, right? Just
Yeah.
drop it
That's
in
right.
there and walk away. Do you find that there's anything that like just kind of talking to guys either on social media in your inner circles, people with work, is there something that like is a general thing that guys you find that guys are struggling with, like one thing everyone should try to avoid? I mean that's hard, right? Because there's a bunch of people, but like something that kind of comes up often that let's just avoid that and it fixes most of our problems, or include that and it fixes most of our problems?
I said the exclude list is easy. Exclude booze, right? The more as I've gotten older, the more and more of my friends stop drinking, and they just feel better because it affects your sleep, it affects your mood, affects how you show up the next day. That would, the inverse of that is you get better sleep, and when you dial in your sleep, you're going to show up better and be better every day. Look, I'm not sober. I mean, I am now, but I enjoy a whiskey. Like, it's one of my passions, but I don't go crazy. I try to limit my booze from Friday night to Saturday night. And then, I try to be a good boy in between. That's not to say, like, if there's a special occasion, I'll have a cocktail, but everything in moderation. But the more I hear, either online or, in my friend group here or at the gym, less and less people drink, and I think they're better for it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. When you're in your 20s, your days and life kind of revolves around going out and
They
drinking
do.
and hanging out. And then as you get older, you get further away from that, right? You come around to
Yeah.
it every once in a while, the
Right.
holidays or like, but
Yeah.
your orbit gets further and further away from, or
That's right.
should, I should say should probably get further and further away from that, right? Like when you're young, it's in your atmosphere. It's everywhere. It could be a
Yeah.
Tuesday
And it's
night.
harder to say no when you're young.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I agree. I agree, and it does affect so many different things that physically, emotionally, situationally, right? So, okay, all right, cool. Hey, look, before we go, man, like I said before, and I said this to you before we started the podcast, I appreciate you coming on. If guys are wanting to share their appreciation, they want to reach out to you, they want to say thanks for doing the episode, high five, that kind of stuff. Where should they reach out?
I'm on Instagram at Jared_S_Stein. And if they need any help with their finance stuff, J Stein at Strategy Financial Group, I will set them up with a free, all of our appointments are free. We don't charge people for, the advice. So, shoot me a note and I'll pair you with the right advisor, based on your situation, and we'll get you on a plan.
Okay, and that's they could do that virtually, or do they have to
Yeah.
be there? Okay,
Nope.
perfect.
You can do virtually.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, fellas, listen, if you don't already have your affairs in order, I highly suggest that you reach out and start at least looking at what that can look like for you. I think, when you have someone working with you, multiple people working with you, it can take some of the stress and some of the scariness away from it. And then you can kind of, move on with your life and lean into the things that, are right there in front of you that are maybe a little bit more important because you have, I don't want to say more important, but because you have the future taken care of,
That's right.
you can remove some of that
Peace of
worry.
mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right, Jared, before we go, do you have anything like last words?
Stay consistent, guys. Life gets hard, but just one foot in front of another every day. Just try to get a little bit better.
That's it. That's it. If it's like I tell guys, when we're working, it's not going to be visible every day, right? It's like a tree though, right? If it's not growing, it's dying. And so if we're taking a step forward or we're taking a step in the right direction, it doesn't have to be leaps and bounds. It may not even be noticeable, but we're moving forward and we're moving forward with intent, and that's what's important. All right, Jared, I appreciate you joining us, and I look forward to talking to you soon, brother.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, my man. Have a great day.
You as well.
All right, that's it, fellas. Listen, if this episode gave you something to think about, send it to another father or another man who needs to hear it. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you haven't started getting your fitness and your finances in order yet, let this be a sign to start now. I'll catch you on the next one. Oh, wait, before you go. Now, I know I mentioned this earlier, but one more time, because I know you forgot because you were locked in on the episode. But this episode was brought to you by Baseline Performance for fathers who want to get back to their baseline and perform with purpose every day. The link is in the show notes. All right. See you next time.